The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed during this or any broadcast belong solely to our guests or our hosts. These broadcasts do not represent or reflect the views of their employers, sponsors, or affiliated organizations.
Welcome to the Flipboard EDU podcast with your host, William Jeffrey, where we collaborate, communicate, and educate with the greatest educators in the world on Flipboard. Let's start the show.
Welcome back, Flipboard fam. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey. An emergency room visits for suspected suicide attempts rose during the pandemic among adolescents. People of all ages are feeling the strain of social isolation and anxiety. For teenagers, these feelings can be compounded by bullying, which can lead to suicide. It is important for adults to be aware of these signs that students display when contemplating suicide so they can get help. Registered nurse Brenda George is the co-founder of S.T.O.P. That is Stop, Talk, Overcome Pain, an initiative she started with her husband. They were inspired to create this program because of their friend's son attempted suicide. Brenda came to realize that suicide rates in Brazoria County, Texas, increased by 30%. Sadly, in Texas, suicide is the second leading cause of death for people between the ages of 10 and 24. In this episode, we speak to Brenda about suicide prevention in youth, how to identify suicide risk factors, and how bullying and cyberbullying contribute to suicide rates. Lastly, and what is her organization doing to make a difference? So like we always do about this time, let's collaborate, communicate, and educate with the best educators in the world right here on Flipboard EDU Podcast. Welcome back, Flipboard fam. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and I have another amazing guest here today, Miss Brenda George. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Miss George, tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself.
My name is Brenda George. I've been a nurse now for 32 years, and I am the co-founder with my husband with the organization called S.T.O.P. S.T.O.P. And S.T.O.P is an acronym for Stop, Talk, Overcome Pain. And we are an educator-approved organization that work with youth that have suicide behaviors through public education, through local community advocacy, training, school assemblies, peer support. We provide education and training in schools and community organizations across Texas. Basically, what we've been able to do since May of 2018, starting at Sweeney High School, we had an opportunity to share the S.T.O.P story with high school and junior high. When S.T.O.P was originated, it was a vision that was given to me in prayer. I prayed about it. We had 3 young children in our community attempt suicide in 1 week, a 7-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 12-year-old. The last little boy, I knew the family, and I got the call from the family. And I knew then that something needed to be implemented in our county to address youth and address family members that lost their children from suicide. So S.T.O.P was birthed. The first high school was Sweeney High School in May of 18. And from that encounter and that opportunity that was given to us from Dr. Tori Hill and Amanda Pope, S.T.O.P began to receive calls from other high schools, including Santa Fe High School. We were one of the first organizations that actually presented several assemblies at Santa Fe High School. They reached out and contacted us, and they had heard me speak as a keynote speaker for NAMI and asked if we could help, that they thought that S.T.O.P would be a good peer-to-peer assembly that would help the healing process needed in Santa Fe High School after that event. So from Santa Fe, the phones kept ringing, and from Santa Fe, we went into Brazoria County, to Matagorda, to Galveston, to now Sheldon, Channelview ISD, east side of Houston. And up to a week ago, we reached our stats and went back and looked, and we have been able to reach 50,000 students since May of 2018. And that's literally just taking out the year of 2020. From that point, other cities and others in the state of Texas began to call and say, can you come to Corpus? Can you come to Lubbock? Can you bring the message of stop, talk, overcome pain to our students? Because it's peer-to-peer, we teach them simply, number one, that they are loved. Very first thing. The second thing we teach them is that they're not alone. Then we share with them a little bracelet. Simple little bracelet. I have one. If I can get it on camera. Simple little bracelet. Says text 741-741. And then it has our website, www.stopglobal.org. And we hand every student that bracelet in the beginning of the assembly, because when that friend is having trouble with her boyfriend and he just broke up with her and she's at her friend's house and she's saying, I want to kill myself. He left me. I don't want to live anymore. That little friend that's with that friend have no idea how to help their friend. But this little bracelet is a direct link to the National Suicide Hotline number. And they pick up this bracelet, they text 24/7, 365, and a person picks up, a live person says, hi, Cindy, are you helping a friend or are you suicidal? And Cindy says, yes, my friend has a gun. She's with me. What should I do? The National Suicide Hotline immediately began to work with that student and work with the peer and both the friends and give them instructions on how to save that person's life. We know that students do not go to their mothers. They do not go to their teachers. They go to their best friends when they're depressed. They know well in advance when that friend is in a place where she's now suicidal or he's suicidal. So by being a peer-to-peer training in an assembly, we teach identity, who you are, knowing who you are, that you do have a purpose. You do have a plan. You are not alone. There's someone that cares. If you haven't heard that you're loved, we tell them you are loved today. I can remember being at Santa Fe High School, probably close to 4,000 students. We had 2 assemblies, 2,000 in the auditorium. And I can remember when Austin Lanier, who's a young man that worked with us, and there's others that are coming down the line that's going to also work with us. We're working on that now. That I remember when Austin said to 4,000 students at Santa Fe High School, you are loved and you're not alone. You could literally feel a weight in that auditorium. You could feel a release where they begin to breathe again. And when we go into campuses from school to school, I don't know, probably over 50, 60 schools by now, 15 or 16 school districts. Lubbock ISD, we worked with Slayton. It was amazing in Slayton because they didn't just have the school assemblies. They also included a community. So that night, all of Slayton filled the auditorium and we had adults that were depressed, that were in a position where they needed help. And those adults came up to us and said, this is not only for my daughter, I needed this for my life. We had teachers that were battling suicide ideations, that were depressed, that were just going through the motion, that came up to us and said, can you come back? We need to hear from you. Can you do a lunch and learn? Can you come back and work with our teachers? Because what you had to share today literally breaks the stigma of suicide. People say, oh, don't talk about it. Oh, no, we do that only at home. We're losing too many children too fast because they want to brush it under the rug. So when we finished at Santa Fe, probably one of the, I'll never forget Santa Fe High School ever. If all of this was for Santa Fe, then I've accomplished everything I was supposed to accomplish in life. I did exactly what God asked me to do. So at Santa Fe, at the end of Santa Fe, we had hundreds. We had 13 students that still had bullet fragments in their bodies that were on the front row of that assembly. And after that assembly, those 13 students approached us and said, we have been waiting to breathe again. And from there, we got a call to Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a keynote speaker at an organization called BART. We've had a call from Chicago and from Huntsville, Alabama. So we're going to have our first out-of-state assembly since the conception of Society about Chicago. The thread or the need is the same. It doesn't matter. Let me tell you about, so I have a friend in Australia. She's a nurse also. She's a registered nurse. And she's been calling and saying, how soon can you get to Australia? And I'm like, why is there such an urgency? And she said, because our boys jumping off the bridge in Brisbane. And I have several friends that live in Australia. And I said, what do you mean they're jumping? The 7th graders and the seniors are all on one campus. They're all together on one campus. And what happens is the seniors bully the 7th graders. They bully them. They make them their slaves. They beat them up, everything. And so these 7th graders are going home. It's not the guns or the pills or the ropes. They're going home on a bridge. They have to pass and they're getting to the top of the bridge and they're committing suicide off a bridge. And so my goal now, other than other states in the United States that are calling, my goal now is to one day take STOP to Australia, take STOP to Mozambique, take STOP to Kenya, because the principality that causes the depression is the same principality no matter where we are. If we're in your school in West Columbia, if I'm in Sheldon, if I'm in Channelview, Tomball, if I'm in wherever we are, we're dealing with the same principality or the same heaviness that our youth COVID didn't help. No, people say, Miss Brenda, what happened during COVID? I said they isolated, they put themselves in a room, and we did a TikTok during COVID. I had a team of teenagers on our board. We called them in and said, how do we address suicide COVID? And all the teenagers said, TikTok. I'm like, no. And they're like, Miss Brenda, you don't have to do it. We're going to do it. And we started a TikTok platform and began to bring in psychologists, Napoleon Higgins. I don't know if you guys know psychiatrist Napoleon Higgins, Dr. Anitra Shelton. We brought in a whole team of professionals and offered weekly interviews with them live on TikTok. And before I realized it, we had 15,000 students following us on TikTok. We let Clarissa give her testimony. Diamond gave her testimony. Delma Garza was with us. Our board participated. And so we found a way, even in the middle of things don't work the way you think they're going to work, then you figure out it must be completed. How are we going to continue to reach our youth? And so TikTok was amazing. Then we are now in a position, I don't know where I left off because I can talk. He was worried about that. I'm really excited. I'm excited about Houston, not leaving home because I'm in this community. I've been here 19 years. So we'll be at BISD April 6th and 7th. I've always invited other superintendents to attend. If you see what happens in one assembly and the youth, how engaging they are, how open they are. What is my average? 55 kids, 55 on a large campus. Any school over 3,000 at least will reach out. On a smaller campus, somewhere between 2 to 10. And Miss Coach Jeffrey because we just left his school. He can contest to that. But even if there's one, if we do all of that, whatever the cost is, we seated the first year. My husband retired from Union Pacific Railroad, 41 years, and he tenured twice. And I said, I need help with this. And he said, whatever you need to do it. He just gave me carte blanche with his accountant and said, do what you need to do. So we seated out of our hearts the first year and a half to make sure that every assembly was taken care of, every bracelet, every T-shirt. And so in my heart, after the little girl in Sweeney, I knew that the peace of God would say, if it's just one, it is always more than one. And it's the one you don't expect at your campus. It's not the one that you say, oh, she's in the office every other day. No, there's always 1 to 5 students that are battling things at home that you don't even have a clue. That once we tell them the story, once Austin share his testimony and the kids turn up, they literally turn up. I don't know how Mr. Jeffries can talk about the turn up. Go ahead, Coach.
You know what? I was concerned that you would be a little shy, but I could tell that you got it when you got it. First of all, you said a lot that I need to unpack because, number one, we wrestle against principalities and strongholds and places that are not flesh and blood. Yeah. And not everybody's going to get that. But for those of you who understand, and you understand why this vision and this mission is so important, that you were inspired to carry out a dream that was already laid for you. And so I appreciate necessarily, number one, because I'm a believer. And so I think that when you have that in your heart, your success is already there to lay that down. And not only that, I've seen the fruits of your assembly. Number one, first, in the beginning of the year, when I was not the head principal, my principal who invited you along with Sheila Newton, and Paul Moody, invited you to our campus where you talk to our teachers. It was eye-opening for us as a staff to hear the young ladies talk about suicide ideation and such beautiful, empowering kids that were so unassuming that we didn't know that they were considering killing themselves and had a plan and follow through. And to hear that, not only was that heartbreaking, it made me reevaluate myself even as a father, looking at what do my own children think about? And then on top of that, now that I deal with children all day, that's what I love to do. But am I really reaching, am I building a relationship where students can feel comfortable to come and talk to me? On top of that, you guys came back and did an assembly as I was the principal. And we talked about the turn up. And Austin Lanier is the one who does the assembly where he tells a story, he calls kids on stage, very interactive, and then he raps. One of the best assemblies I've been to as a professional in the 17 years that I've been an educator. It's one of the best assemblies I've ever been a part of. How did y'all get connected with Austin?
A good friend of mine, Peggy Murky is actually his booking agent. And when the vision came, when God gave the vision, people said, Miss Brenda, do you have a history in your family? No. I just know when you have an assignment, it's best not to say no. And I said no at first. And I met with Peggy, and Peggy said, I have a perfect young man that has a story. And he's new on my staff. I think you should meet him. And we met. I listened to his story. We sat down. We mapped out what an assembly would look like. He was already hosting assemblies before I met him.
Wow.
And so we looked at the S.T.O.P story, which matched his testimony and what he dealt with. And we came together back in 2018, and we've been together since.
You mean to tell me that was placed on your heart and you had a friend who had somebody whose story matched exactly what you needed?
Yeah.
And then when you see this young man, when this young man comes to your school and connects with the children at your school, the way he connects with children and his music was actually good. I thought it was going to be a little cheesy. Let me tell you what happened. My son went to the assembly. He was at the junior high. You guys also came to our junior high and you did the assembly. And my son came home excited. Hey, Dad, we had this assembly day. And the rapper, he was good. I was taking pictures on my phone and I was like, okay, this dude's going to come to our school. And he rocked it. He killed it. So I was like, yeah, man. At the end, I had a chance to talk to the dude. The kids was coming back trying to get his autograph. It was crazy. We couldn't clear out the auditorium because children want to get an autograph with this young man. And when God puts something on your heart, he has already laid the success. The success is already there. So thank you for following through with that.
You're welcome. And from your campus to Santa Fe, we're in the process of going to Provision Academy, which is close to Worthing. They have 400 students and they have a very tight budget. And the more I prayed about it, the more God said, there's times that you seed it because you will seed into those 400 because you have no idea in that small academy how many students are going to be released from the spirit of depression, from suicide, that whatever it takes, you will go to Provision. And I talked to Austin. I said, hey, we got to make this happen. He's okay. I'm in. Because when I tell people about it, when they actually attend, when they actually sit in those seats in the auditorium and they see the students' response, not my response or Austin, they see the students' response and how engaging they are and how they want to talk. And now it's like a breath of fresh air has hit our school and we can breathe. And they say me time. They sing me time on the campus for a whole week. And it's just, he can tell you I thank God for the assignment. I thank God that he promised me that the least I do, the more he'll do. And that was my piece to know that if I'm obedient and I don't say no, they called from Austin and said, you are nominated for the Hero for Children's Award. Never heard of that in my life. I get a call from Governor Abbott's office, send me some information on S.T.O.P. And we get a call back in August. Mr. Massey, BISD, did his part. I did my part. We sent everything to Austin. And they say, you actually won the Heroes for Children's Award in 2019. Fly to Austin. Just like that. Then the same time that happened, a Houston Chronicle said, we want to follow you for 12. I'm like, how did you find out? And they said, a friend of a friend mentioned S.T.O.P. We have a reporter and 2 cameramen. Every school you go in with consent from the superintendent, we want to be there. And you'll be on the front page of the Houston Chronicle. And I said, okay, God, you're moving. So the third thing that happened was TASB. And they said, Miss Brenda, can you speak in front of 2,000 superintendents? And I'm like, are you serious? And they said, you have an invite to come to TASB. So September 24th of last year, I was a keynote speaker at TASB. And
Can you tell our listening audience what is TASB?
Texas Association of, high school principals and superintendents. And so that was amazing. I met people from everywhere, but we have to have a voice. They don't have a voice. If we mature adults don't stand up and realize that we're in a season where mental health is prevalent, it's not just adults. It's this first little girl was 7 years old. The first little girl at our hospital was 7 years old.
Who tried to commit suicide.
Intubated and shipped out and transferred to another facility. So the warfare is real.
And you as a nurse, not even an educator, saw this young lady, and were you working on her, or how did you get involved?
No, it was more so through a family contact that mentioned that she was there. Yeah, I didn't work on her. I wasn't in ICU that day.
Ms. George, this is so timely. There are some naysayers who would say that students should not be talking about, or schools should not take time to talk about suicide in schools. Like that has nothing to do with the curriculum. You know, that right now there is certain awareness around critical race theory and around those things that supposedly just necessarily doesn't belong in schools. Pregnancy prevention, suicide. What would you say to someone who says that suicide should not be topic in a high school setting?
I think I would tell them to go look at the stats through your mental health deputy, through your sheriff's department, through your police department. Go look at the stats of the number of teenagers that are committing suicide. It is up 88% because of COVID, because of all the shifts in how you feel with everything we've had to walk through. Just imagine how those students feel. School was a gateway of safety. They lost their safety nets. They came back home into situations that probably were unfavorable. They had to adapt to things. They could go to school. They could have a hot lunch. They could talk to their counselors. They could see their friends. So then COVID decreases, and all of a sudden we throw all the kids back in school without any kind of mental health predisposition teaching to get them ready. So the numbers don't lie. The numbers are up. For us to turn a blind eye and not to deal with mental crisis intervention specialists, CIS has a wonderful program. They have a whole team of CIS. Sheila's part of that. CIS.
For our listening audience, for those people who are not aware of CIS, can you state what CIS is, please?
Okay, CIS is Communities in Schools. It's an organization that works with schools, and one of the new programs they have is a mental health track with called a crisis intervention specialist, social workers, LPCs, MSW, psychologists. They work in the schools daily with the students on campus. And the stats are the stats. And then the stats that I see in Brazoria County are just as high in Houston. And if we don't acknowledge that we have a problem, that mental health is prevalent, and you know what, the lunch and learn with the teachers, they asked for that. They said, Miss Brenda, can you just do something at lunch for us? Can you come teach signs and symptoms? Can you teach dispositions? Can you teach hereditary factors? Can you teach what should we look for? We have a kid in our room and this little girl is cutting. How do I address that? I know I take her to the counselor, but what else is available? So one of the words that I know in my heart I use is collaborate. I am a piece of this puzzle, but I collaborate with the best of the best. So when we come in, if you don't have the tools you need to make sure your campus and your parents can get to a counselor, then we collaborate you with the community health and the CISs and the NAMIs and all those organizations. So you'll have the tools. I don't know how, but it happens from school to school that this wall in the middle of our assembly just comes down. And you can look out in the auditorium and children just crying, tears, not because of, okay, this is impacting me, because I can't take it. They're coming up saying, thank you, Austin. Thank you, Miss Brenda. I feel a release today. I feel like somebody really cares. I come to school every day. My teachers don't talk to me about suicide. My counselors don't really go into it. Today, they feel like a release. I let go of the pain. I let go of the depression. I let go of the suicide ideations. I do have a purpose. I have an identity. I can be that. I can follow those 3 steps. I can make something out of my life. And it's from campus to campus. No matter where we are, you feel the release.
You said something that is a tenet of this show. One thing that I say every episode is that we collaborate, communicate, and educate with the best educators in the world right here on Flipboard EDU podcast. Yeah. So again, everything is meant to be. And for those people who believe, your road is already laid out for success. And I would love to have you back on the show along with those students so that they can, at least one of them, or maybe all of them, to share their story, our listening audience, just to see the power of the thought process that they went through and what that change looks like. It is life altering. It has altered my life as an educator. And also to sing your praises. After you did the assembly at my school, we did have 2 students to reach out, which that's why I had to get you on my show. Like I had to. Thank you.
I would love to bring Clarissa and Alicia, some of the students that were actually in a high school that came back and said, how can we volunteer? How can we tell our story to other students? Because all 3 actually attempted more than once. And now I'm watching them in college. I'm watching them at U of H. I'm watching them live life. I find hope to live, and they are a voice for stop. What I said today is compared to what Diamond is going to say. Nothing.
Yeah, mind blowing. I'm sitting there like, what? Yeah, it was mind blowing. I thank you for coming on, and I hope you'll come back. Where can our listening audience find you?
www.stopglobal.org. And that's our website. My cell number, if you would like to host an assembly at your school, my personal cell is 979-665-7712. Just leave a message. I'll get back with you. My email is stop@gmail.com.
At Gmail.
stopglobaltx@gmail.com. I had fun at your school. We had a blast.
Yeah, we did. Hey, we did. I had a blast that whole day. And with the odd thing about it is I didn't think that my students was actually going to like that. And for the whole next 3 days, kids was coming around saying, hey, we ought to do that again. Hey, thank you for doing that. And they don't tell me thank you for nothing. I'm really not everybody's favorite. So I'm the mean guy who makes them go to class. And if you're not in school, I got to convince you. So they weren't really happy, but they that program. And so I appreciate that. And I just want to thank you. And I want you guys to keep up the good work. You're always welcome to come on the show. And again, I'm going to have you back. If the Houston Chronicle can put you on their front page for, what is it, 3 times? Okay, good. We got invited back for it. Yeah. I dedicate, you got 4 episodes where we can talk about stop suicide prevention in the COVID-19 era. And we're going to just take you where you need to be. Introduce you to, you got to be introduced to, and make sure your story gets out, because that's what it's all about. Your story and those kids.
Yes, that's an honor. I'm so honored. I would love to come back.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you very much.
Starting today, any topic or magazine you follow on Flipboard can be turned into an iOS widget for your iPhone or iPad. Whether you follow tech news or a travel magazine, the newest Flipboard widget is designed to bring you the stories you love, right on your home screen. You can create as many as you want, and they can live side by side with the existing, For You, widget, which shows stories from your main Flipboard feed. Initially, the widget shows you stories from the daily edition, but you can change this. You can edit and customize the new widget and pick any topic or magazine you're following on Flipboard. Additionally, you can choose our editorially curated section, 10 for today, or keep the daily edition for your widget. Here's how to add and customize the new widget in 5 easy steps. Long press anywhere on your iPhone or iPad screen until the icons jiggle. Tap the plus in the upper left corner of your screen. Select Flipboard and browse the gallery of widget types and sizes. Select the following widget in the size you want. Once installed, long press on the widget to customize it with the content you want to see. If you want to create a second widget for another topic or magazine you follow the same 5 steps. You can add as many Flipboard widgets as you like, and choose a different size for each one. For example, you can add a medium widget that displays the latest stories from the technology topic, a large widget with stories from your favorite fitness magazine, as well as a small widget with top news stories from the daily edition. Adding Flipboard widgets to your iPhone and iPad gives you quick access to the latest stories about the things you care most about. Want to see what you follow on Flipboard? Go to your following tab, 4 squares, in the bottom navigation bar to view and manage everything you follow on Flipboard.
Are you looking for a podcast about education? Flipboard EDU Podcast is a great podcast that focuses on digital, remote, and future learning. We will explore how to use Flipboard in education and how it can enhance instruction. You'll hear from teachers, students, and experts who are using this amazing tool in their classrooms. It's not just an educational resource, but also a community of people who want to share ideas with one another. Hey, join our community today. Share your stories, ask questions, or even submit content for us to feature on the show. We want everyone involved in this conversation so we all can learn together as we move into the future of education. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and I look forward to you becoming a part of the Flipboard family. Click here now to follow our podcast. Until next time, family. Flipboard fam, thanks for sticking with me on this episode. I want to thank Brenda George for talking with us about her organization, S.T.O.P. That is Stop, Talk, Overcome Pain. Also want to give a huge shout out to Aileen Laylor and Crystal Vanderboom for the editorials on the Flip EDU Educators blog. Remember to subscribe to our Flipboard EDU magazine on flipboard.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to The Art of Curation, the Flipboard podcast by Mia Quadrulo. Don't forget to share our podcast with an educator or colleague. Our podcast is available globally and everywhere you listen to podcasts. So until next time, family.